And welcome to the beginning of year for principals for 2023-2024. We are excited to share the first webinar of the year. I am Cami Nairn. I am your NCEES product manager, and I will let my colleagues here introduce themselves. So I'll let Donna, she is helping me with NCEES. I'll let her introduce herself.
Hi, my name is Donna Curry, and right now I'm the Digital Subscriptions and Technology Analyst with DPI, and I'm the Product Manager with EBSCO Britannica, and I've been cross-training with Cami for a few months on these. Nice to meet you all.
All right. And then Jennifer, my policy person.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jennifer Bass, and I am the NCEES coordinator, and you see Cami and I together a lot doing these webinars. And as she said, if you have any questions concerning policy about NCEES, you would contact me. If you have questions specifically about the tool, that's usually Cami. But if you contact either one of us, we will help you out as best we can. So welcome to our webinar this afternoon.
Just a little housekeeping. We don't have a slide. We are in trying Teams webinar for the first time today. I'll try to get some slides in our next webinars, but you should see when you opened up the Teams webinar, your menu bar across the top. There'll be a chat where you can enter questions there. There's also a Q&A. We'll try to monitor both of those if you'd rather put your questions in the Q&A. You can raise your hand up there if you have a question, and we'll see it and call on you and unmute you. And then if you want to react to anything put in a chat, you can use the little smiley faces there as well. Any issues with sound, which I know if you're having issues with sound, you can't hear me, they would be found under the three dots. And then you go to settings and device settings to adjust your sound. All right. Let's click on the slides. And there's our contact information. Keep those handy. Email us at any time. We are awesome to want to help you and get you where you need to be to finish the plans in NCEES. Here's our agenda for today. We're going to take a quick look for you new folks, how you access NCEES. I imagine most people are getting in there now, but we'll review that. And then since this is geared for principals, we are going to review your principal evaluation process. Once we're done with that, we will review the teacher evaluation process, but we are going thoroughly through the teacher evaluation process at 4 o'clock today at our next webinar. Then we'll also take a look at how you confirm your staff rosters, your staff lists, and those plan types that you set for your staff. And we will review, just to do a quick review about assigning rights in NCEES. So let's look at accessing NCEES. Everybody comes in through our single sign-on system, and that's NC Cloud, IAM, Rapid Identity. You see all those monikers there. And you go to my.ncedcloud.org. You will enter your 10-digit UID. Unless you're NCDPI listening today, you change the top bar to NCDPI and use your NCID. But for most of you, you're entering your UID, that 10-digit number that they gave you. Click go, enter the password that you set, and click go. You'll see the dashboard load up, and you are looking for an icon that looks like the PowerSchool cyan blue letter P with Unified Talent written underneath, and it says NCEES on the side. So you'll click that to get into NCEES. The principal's landing page looks like this, and we will look at some of this. If you want us to look live, let us know. You have a home page. You can get to your principal evaluation from My Evaluation. Head principals, you have access to everybody's evaluation in your location. You will go to staff evaluation to look at those. APs, and if you've been assigned to be observers or evaluators on someone's plan, you will look here as well. We have help guides, and we'll look at that in a minute. Professional development to search for courses. Any courses that you're currently working in will fall under My Courses. And then there's some additional information here. To see your staff rosters, and it's under this dotted line, you would go to My Staff. The other icons at the top, you'll see your initials where you can go find your demographic information and some additional information in there. The question mark is just PowerSchool's help for this system. We always advise, for the most part, you can probably do best by going to our help guides listed on the help guides link. If you want to use the calendar in NCEES, I know some districts that do. A lot of districts have another outside calendar, but there's a calendar for you to use. Sometimes we'll post things there as well. The envelope icon, if we're sending out message or you're sending out a message through NCEES, it's called targeted announcements. They show up in this envelope. So here's the look at the help guides tab. We have several help guides out here for you. If you notice on the left, we have the plan help guides, and they're divided up by plan type. So the first one is comprehensive. It tells you who should be on a comprehensive plan. Then it gives you a guide for the teacher or staff that's being evaluated. That's their guide. And then there's one for the evaluator, or the observer can use this evaluator guide as well. And then because peers are required on the comprehensive, we put the peer observer guide under the comprehensive section. You can have peers on the standard or abbreviated, but you're going to find the guide under comprehensive. Then, of course, standard, and these are view and do. So the teachers will have their steps marked as do when they need to do something, and they'll have marked the other steps as view when the evaluator needs to do something, and that will be the opposite in the evaluator guides. Any questions about help guides or how to get into NCEES? Site administrators, you also have some other guides over here. How to assign access rights. I did it again. How to assign access rights to your teacher and staff plans. You already, principals, you head principals out there, you already have access to your AP plans. The system has assigned that. So nobody needs to assign you rights to your APs. Your NCEES district administrator will need to assign your evaluator. And they have a guide for doing that right here, assigning access rights to the principal plans. This is a look at the staff evaluations page. This is where most principals navigate to when they want to start working in the plans. I did want to show that page live, so I'm going to try to slide this over. And here we go. So if we go to staff evaluations, this is what it looks like. I wanted to show you this note at the top of the page. We get a lot of questions about why can't I see my staff down here below? And it's because their plan has not been started. It's only started active plans show on this dashboard. And we'll take a look at where to go find out why it's not started. The other link up here is for your people that can reopen completed activities. So if you as a principal completed an activity, but you want to go back and add another comment or add another tally in the rubric, you will need to request your NCEES DA reopen that activity. And this is information for that DA if they're new and they're just getting these rights, how to reopen the activity for you. And make sure your district has set a policy for who needs to be notified when that happens, because we kind of consider that like changing a student grade. All the significant parties should be notified before something is edited. Get this out of the way. All right. The other thing on this page are these progress icons that you see down below here. If the activity is not yet started, it is a gray circle, like a flower or a pizza. Once it's put in progress, it turns blue and is 3/4 full. The orange circle either means the activity is in progress and almost complete, or it also signifies when an activity has been reopened. So note that. So these activities you see right here, both of those have been reopened for editing. Then the person can go back in and click in there and complete their activities. Once everything's complete, you will see this green circle with a check mark. Some of these activities are also locked, if you'll see right here. The self-assessment is never locked so that your people can get back in there and reevaluate themselves if they'd like. But some activities must be locked to get to the next activity, and you'll see that lock icon. Sometimes when this orange circle is here, people say, I can't edit. They've reopened, but I can't edit. Watch for that lock on the orange circle as well. So that reopener person will need to unlock and reopen that activity for you to edit it. You can navigate to the plan from the teacher's name or the staff's name. If you click on the active plan listed here, it will open up a list of everybody on, like this one is a PDP. It will give you a list of everybody on the PDP. So if you want to see everybody on a PDP from this page, click on the name of the plan. Notice here, this says active plan, and then the next column is called rubric from my staff. See how this says not selected? That's wrong. That will be wrong because you should have selected a plan type to inform the plan that they're working in, which rubric belongs in that plan. So if you see this, or if you see principal plan here, and over here it says teacher classroom, check what's wrong. Go back to my staff and make sure the settings are correct, or you may need to deactivate or archive this plan. And then let the correct plan populate. You can also get to activities by clicking on the little icons here. If I were to click right here, this is a screenshot, so it's not going to do it, but it will take me back to that PDP initial review. If I have a icon that's not started and I click on it, it may give me a message of not authorized. That usually means that something previous has not been completed. Something that's been required has not allowed me to get to the next activity that has the gray circle. So I would come over here, open the plan from the teacher's name, see what's not being completed. Any questions about that?
Cami, you've had two questions that come in. One says, can principals archive plans?
Principals cannot. DAs can. DAs have reopen rights, which also gives them archive and delete. Does that help?
And then the other question says, we are an individual charter school, so as principal, am I also the DA?
Not automatically. We need to know if your district has never had a NCEES district administrator, open a ServiceNow ticket with who we need to set as your district administrator. NCDPI will set that first district administrator, and then that district administrator is responsible to set the next district administrator. And once you've been given district administrator rights, try to move this back over. On the home page, let me scroll down, you'll get this DA dispatch section. And if you're setting, once you've been given your rights, and then you want to set a backup person, you have to set their DA rights, and that's in this paragraph here. And then you need to submit, does that new DA need to be able to help you set access rights or need to help you troubleshoot by assuming people's identity? We need to know if you want them to have those additional rights. You need to fill out that form. Don't tell them to fill out the form. We would rather that the lead DA submit this form. And then we'll assign any additional rights to that DA. But how to set the DA is in this help guide on page 3. And there are 2 steps. You need to give them the DA admin type. Once you save that, there'll be a button that appears, and you need to set the admin rights location, because that gives them access then to the people in that location. And that is an overnight process.
Thank you, Cami. They're good now.
All right, so to find out if a plan has been started or not, you can go look at that on my staff. I'm gonna stay in this because it might be easier to show. Let me come here. And I will try it. I might not have somebody to look at. So principals, head principals, you already have access to my staff. APs, if you've been given site administrator rights, you will have access to my staff as well. Okay. So when you're on this page, you can see a roster list of your staff. In this page also it lists their position. And in NCEES, that can be administrative, instructional, support, or support certified, and we'll look more at that in a minute. You can filter these here by adding a column. So let me see if I have anybody instructional in here. So I do position contains instructional, because I want to set all the instructional people's plan types. So I just click update my table, and now I've only got my instructional people, and I can come in here and set their plan type, and of course set their PDP type at the same time so that the rubric is correct. So if I were to give this person counselor, I do need to select their PDP. I'm going to do individual. Now the self-assessment after overnight processing will have a counselor rubric in the self-assessment, and the plan itself will have a counselor rubric. If you don't do it at the same time, the PDP can default to a teacher rubric, and then we have to go through a step to correct that. There is a way to correct that. All right, and then I'm going to remove that filter and update my table to get my list back. And over here on the left, I've got all staff. This is where I can see if somebody has started their plan. And here, if I see the word edit, the plan is started. I can click here and get to the plan. I don't always have to go to staff evaluations. I can go to my staff, all staff, and get to a plan. If I see the word start, I don't know if any of these have that, but there could be a word start here. If you see the word start, they have not started the plan. So what happens when they haven't started a plan? When you come over here to staff evaluations, you will not see that assigned plan for that person.
Cami, before you leave this screen, if someone does not have access to their staff, what do they need to do?
If you're like an AP, check with your district to see if they want you to have access to this page, and then the DA or the site, the lead principal, can give you those rights. The system automatically gives this page, this rights page, to head principals, which is budget code 114. So what depends on your budget code, what rights you initially come in with. Everybody else does not have access to this page unless it's manually assigned. The staff details over here on the link, and you guys see these top 3 links. The rest of these are state level links. Staff details takes you back to the My Staff page. And I forgot to show you while we were on all staff that the emails come in here, and you can email people from here. And then the evaluation, some people like to use this because it breaks down the evaluations. So this shows everybody on a principal plan. And because I have only assigned a principal plan in this school, that's the only plan I have listed here. But if you've got your comprehensive, your standard, you'll be able to choose between those plan types. The other thing to look at is while you're in here, that site column, make sure there's only one district location. This is important because if you see Johnston County here and Harnett County both here on one person, then that plan type lists both schools, and it doesn't default to the which school owns that plan, and it gives other people's rights to that plan. So make sure to check your staff. Maybe Johnston County needs to activate the staff, or maybe Harnett County does. That's going to have to be your looking into. Maybe contacting the former district and saying, please inactivate this staff in UID. And your district administrator can help with that.
Cami, while you're talking about UID, that was a question that just came in. How do they remove staff members that no longer work with them? That's also done on your end through staff UID as well.
Correct. Donna's correct. It has to be done through staff UID. And we'll look at that. Some other tips before we get into this process. I know we only have an hour. When you go to the staff evaluations page, do come back and look at this slide and try some of these things out. On the green part, you can check these boxes, and down below at the bottom of the page, you can message staff. You can either message everybody by not checking any of the boxes, or if you need to message 4 or 5 people, you can check their boxes and just send and just click the word message, and then you can send your message to them. There's a way to pin and create your own list of staff. So you can pin a certain number of staff, click show my list, and now you're working in just your pinned list. There will be a link to go back to your main list right here as well, once you've clicked in to show my list. We talked about making sure you look at owner name, the plan type, and making sure it matches that other column with what's on the My Staff page. And then there are reports over here as well, which we won't delve into right now. But the CSV reports on what is on this page. This little squiggle is your evaluation completion report. That's a very important one to go look at. So try those out sometime. Did want to remind everybody that last year we started adding additional people to NCEES, and that's only for the purpose of them to take PD in NCEES. They do not get evaluated in NCEES. They'll either be support certified, and I need to correct this one here. This is just support, but the first 3 are support certified. You can use those people in NCEES to be evaluators, peers, or mentors. But they do not get evaluated in NCEES. You'll have to do the paper pencil, or if you have another system that they're evaluated in, they are evaluated outside of NCEES. And then the rest of these should just say support. They only can get to these links that you see in the screen right here. Professional development, manage their courses, transfer credit manager, mobile app. The NCEES history will show any plans that they've had previously. Maybe they were a teacher, now they're just one of these roles here, a therapist pre-K. So they can see their past plans, but they will not be assigned any new plans in NCEES while they have this role. And then there's a link for the PD only access. This is also good for any staff. We do link all the self-paced courses in this little document here. So we will be updating those soon, because I know we've had DPI groups adding courses to NCEES. So we'll get this updated in the next week or 2. All right, any questions? Do we need to look at that document, Donna? This one here? This is your NCEES data V8 document. Hopefully it'll load up quick.
Yes, I think it would help maybe a quick explanation of how Staff UID does work from that document. My system's been really slow. The first few pages show you the process and what fields are brought into NCEES. People only access NCEES by a nightly person import file. And these are the fields that payroll gets. They send them to what we call Staff UID. A lot of your HR people call it CEDARS. And then we get some additional information from these systems. And then the last page shows that your budget code determines what role you have in NCEES. So if you have a 114, you're a principal, the system sees you and makes you an evaluator of everybody. But every other role in here, you come into the system as a site user, and you only see your plan until somebody manually gives you access to other plans. And then the last page is those additional support roles. All right. We need to truck along. All right, I'm going to turn this over to Jennifer, I think. Yeah, policy resources.
Okay, we did want to do a review of the process of the principal evaluation process for you, so that you understand exactly how you're going to be evaluated this school year. So in front of you, you see a 1-page outline of the principal evaluation process. This was developed for your convenience so that you can see all 7 steps of the process, and you can identify the optional forms and then the required documents that must be used. This form can be found on the principals page of our NCEES public page, so you can find that easily. Okay, I wanted to start with the top. You see in the top right-hand corner, there is a key that identifies the documents that are in red are required in your process. Anything that's written in green are optional forms that we provide to support you in your process, but your school system or your district may have their own forms, and that's fine. These are optional. But the rest of the process that is in black is required as defined by the North Carolina State Board of Education. So that's just your key as you're looking at this document. So the first thing is the orientation. And this is kind of part of, you should be meeting with your principals. Your principals should be meeting with your administrator, your superintendent, or whoever is your supervisor, just like the teachers do. And they need to have an orientation to ensure that they understand the rubric and how you're going to be evaluated. Principals must also complete a self-assessment just like teachers do at the beginning of each year. And you should formulate your goals for the school year. You can use the optional North Carolina Principal AP goal form to record those goals. And these items should be completed before you do the next step. So when we move on to step number 3, this is our one-on-one meeting with your assigned evaluator to discuss your self-assessment, to review the goals that you've set for yourself for the school year. And your supervisor is going to help you to fine-tune those goals and help you to decide what data and evidences or artifacts that they would like you to be collecting in pursuit of your goals for yourself and your school. So this is a discussion as to what your year is going to look like in your goals. Then we'll move on to step 4, data, data, data. It's all about collecting the data and the evidences that you will need to collect throughout the year in pursuit of reaching your agreed upon goals. Your supervisor will stop in throughout the year to check in, visit your building, discuss your goals, discuss your progress. These visits should be viewed as an opportunity to discuss the data that you've collected, talk about your progress towards your goals, and to gain feedback and advice and suggestions for reaching those goals and continuing to build your leadership skills. There's an optional form called the Principal AP Evaluation Process document that can be used to record these visits or the check-ins and the conference dates, but that is optional. Then we'll move on to step 5. What adjustments need to be made? This is a mid-year check-in with your supervisor. You should be looking at your data and monitoring your progress towards your goals throughout the year. But we want to make sure that you have all your agreed upon data and evidences to share with your supervisor at this point. There is an optional form that's available for that mid-year evaluation, which is called the Progress Towards Achieving Goals form. That can be used, or something your district has put together can be used, either one. This is optional, but you can use that to keep track of these things for yourself. And then step 6, this happens towards the end of the year. You should provide your supervisor with the data and the goal progress before the end of the year meeting actually happens, so that they have a chance to look over that and know what kind of discussions they would like to have with you. So you will be discussing your data and your goal achievement, and you may use the optional goal setting worksheet when you are identifying your professional growth goals at this point. Now, step 6 also occurs at the end of the year. You should provide your supervisor with all of your data and your goal progress. Where am I? I'm sorry. Step 7, you're at your summary evaluation. You've already completed your consolidated performance assessment. You're going to meet with your supervisor to look at your self-assessment, and that was a required document that you did at the beginning of the year. You're going to go over that consolidated performance assessment together, and then you will go over your summary evaluation form, and that rubric is required, and it's in NCEES. So this is where your summary evaluation will actually come into play at the step 7.
Okay.
And now we're going to turn it over and talk about what that process looks like in the system.
Yes, thank you. Thanks, Jennifer. Not seeing any other questions right now. I did link your guides for the principal AP evaluation guide here, and the one for the evaluator is linked here as well. We do have a website for NCEES information and resources as well. I did want to make note of something new this year. When you do go into your plan, it's going to ask you to confirm your location. If your location is incorrect or it has 2 schools in there, you need to get with your previous district to inactivate you, get with your NCEES DA to make sure this is set correctly, because you want your current school to be listed on the plan that was started at the school that you're currently at. So you need to confirm that. That also helps with reporting for your district administrator and for DPI to make sure that when we pull your standard ratings and everything at the end of the year, the correct school location was listed. I won't read over these. If you want to know who gets notified when something is done in your plan, you can look at this, the pre-evaluation planning. A notification is, when it's done, a notification goes to the evaluator, and then so forth and so forth. You see it goes back and forth depending on which activity was done in the plan. To start your plan, you're going to navigate to My Evaluation, and you will be on this Current Evaluations tab. You would have seen a blue Start New button. Once it started, though, when you come back in, you will then see the title of your plan, and you will click on that title to get back into your plan. If you're still in the same district, the next tab over will list any past plans you've done with that district because they will be archived. If for any reason a budget code changed or you are now in a new district, your past plans may be under deactivated evaluations. And in fact, if you change districts, your past plans from the previous district will be found under here, deactivated evaluations. So the first thing you need to do is complete your orientation. You will just click into orientation, click the word edit, and then put in the date for when you received your orientation policy and manual, and you've had that orientation, put that date in, and then click Save and Exit. Once you click Save and Exit, you will then want to, at the top of the screen, click Mark Complete. If you can click back instead, you will see an orange icon because you are almost complete, but not fully complete yet. You'll just click back into orientation, click Mark Complete. Once you've fully marked everything complete, you get that green check that everybody wants to see. The little asterisks that you see beside the word orientation denote the required areas. So just like up here, sometimes they're small. This is required to have this date in here. It's got the little asterisk there. It denotes any required field. Then you're going to complete steps 2 through 4. The pre-evaluation planning container has your self-assessment, and you will set your goals. The next one down is your initial meeting, and then the data collection that Jennifer referred to in her section on the policy. All right, that was pretty much a quick walkthrough of your principal plans. Do you guys have any questions about navigating through your principal plans? Okay.
Kami, hold on. If the only teachers that you are not retaining are retiring teachers, are there any ideas for the goal for maintaining and improving the school teacher turnover rate, since the goal is required, is a requirement?
A question for Jennifer?
If you're talking about like the goals that you're setting for like PDPs, you can definitely tie those to your school improvement goals, and that way they're working towards helping you achieve those. I don't know if that helps you.
Yeah, if that doesn't help, just try to clarify the question.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and talk about the teacher evaluation process. So as you're working with your teachers, all evaluation observation details do have to have a time entry, and it is very important that you do pay attention to the format and how you enter that time. It's like a 2-digit hour followed by a 2-digit minute followed by AM PM format. So you can see those examples and make sure you enter those, and then choose your date and make sure you click Save once you are done.
That's going to help your report people because they need to put that in Excel and it needs to calculate correctly the number of minutes that you observe somebody. So when you're doing the optional observations, or if you're in a standard plan and you're doing an optional peer observation, this top container flower will not fully complete because there's no required activities in the optional containers. So just remember that as long as you see these green checks and all the steps are done, the signatures are in, the observation has been, the formal observation is complete. You can look on your dashboard. That's what these big long red arrows are for. If you see the green check with the lock, like on this bottom here, everything's complete. If you just see a green check on the optional peer observation, it just means they completed the observation, but they've not completed signatures. So use your dashboard to help you determine when optional activities are complete. Okay. This one mine?
It is, but I have the next one, so I can go ahead.
Okay.
So all evaluations, you can always have a written response acknowledgement, and you can do that at any time. So if you do want to have that written response acknowledgement, just make sure when you're done that, or when your teacher's turning in, just make sure you acknowledge if you did receive it.
Yes.
And then you save and exit. Let's see here. Oh, I'm not following you. So document summary override and the summary evaluation. So this is something that is new this year. So in the past, you did have the document, the override in different parts of the plan, but it has now been added to the summary evaluation, but only district administrators can do that for you. So for some reason, at the end of the school year, a teacher leaves, they don't finish out the school year, or for whatever reason, they don't sign off, then you can have this override. So you do complete these plans. And just remember, this is
only for, you should not be signing for somebody. This is only to override to complete the plans. It's when they refuse to sign. You can have your district administrator use this step to make sure the plan is fully completed for your district.
So also when you're in each plan, at the very bottom of each plan, you will see whether it's standard or comprehensive. At the very bottom, you'll see the light bulb, so you can do a recommended learning opportunity. Once you click on that, you'll see the option to add an opportunity, and then a list will pop up, and you can make it a required opportunity, or you can make it recommended, and then you can click save, and then when people log in, they will see it on their My Courses tab if it is required.
Yeah, so this is when you want, if a teacher is struggling on a standard or on their goal, you want to give them a course to take, use that recommended learning opportunities.
In the past, when a teacher started a PDP one way and then maybe mid-year it got changed to a monitored plan, it would change the initial plan. So what now is going to happen is the PDP plan type will persist. So whatever the teachers were at the beginning of the year will stay with that beginning of the year plan. So their historical data will be correct. So if they change throughout the year, what they were at the beginning of the year will stay what it was at the beginning. What they are at the middle of the year might be different, and then what they are at the end might be different. So it will persist for correct historical data, and that is new this year. In the past, once you changed it in one place, it changed it everywhere, but it will stay now. Just a couple of additional updates. The asterisk is something that is required. So that asterisk has now been added to the observation and summary evaluation lot, because that is a required step. So it's been added there. You can see we just added that little detail for you. And it's also had some words added in the abbreviated plan to tell who does what part. So the post observation conference had the word evaluator added, and also had the word teacher added, so you know who needs to do each part. That was missing, and that has been added now for the school year.
Okay, I think, oh, I'm sorry. This is me. We're going to switch back just a little bit, because a large part of your role as the instructional leader in your school is to work with and evaluate and observe your teachers. So we just want to reiterate that educator evaluation is about growth and improvement. The intended purpose of the North Carolina evaluation process was to assess the teacher's performance in relation to the North Carolina teaching profession standards and to design a plan for professional growth. So it was not intended in any way as a gotcha for teachers. It was designed to help teachers to grow in their profession. So we just wanted you to stress that idea with you and stress that very early on with your staff, and they will see this process as a positive one instead of maybe a negative one. So for any NCEES information and resources, we do have a new public NCEES site. The arrow is pointing to the beginning of the year orientation page. Everything that you would need for your teachers, your principals, support staff, everything can be found here. But we're going to talk real quick about the beginning of the year orientation materials that we have available for you to use with your staff. So at the beginning of the year, in our policy, it says that within 2 weeks of a teacher's first day of work in any school year, the principal will provide the teacher with a copy of the directions for obtaining, or give them directions for obtaining a copy of the rubric. They must be directed to the board policy of eval 004 and give them a schedule for completing all of the components of the evaluation process. So every district has their own calendar as to when first observations will happen, when peer observations happen. So those are kinds of things that you're going to need to share with your teachers. Then the principals, if you're going to be doing your beginning of the year orientation, we suggest that you send out a reminder email to pull your staff together, send links to the NCEES Google site where everything that they need can be found, and then plan that face-to-face or virtual orientation meeting so that you can discuss the questions and gain any clarifications for those teachers regarding the NCEES at all that they might need. And then we also recommend that the staff would view the North Carolina teacher orientation recorded webinar that we have offered for you. That will walk them through, and that will check that box for you that the orientation is done, and everybody would hear it at the same time.
Yeah, I'm just going to pop in there. It's no longer NCEES Google site. We will update this slide to say NCEES Canvas site, because the new NCEES site is in Canvas now.
Yes.
I think this is my slide.
Yeah.
So we're working throughout the year to get to the end of the year. This year, we're asking everybody to be completed with their plans by June 27th, which is a Thursday. So that on Friday, the NCEES product manager, and that's me, will review everything, make sure everything's done, and run reports at the end of the day before PowerSchool archives those plans. So work with your NCEES district administrator to get end of year reports run. It's always best to run reports that you're going to need for scheduling, for determined plan types, before the close of the business day on June 27th or June 28th. Make sure those reports are in, because demographics will change on July 1, and you really want these reports to be historically accurate. On the left, it shows you what must be completed in each plan type to complete those plans. So comprehensive, all the observations, 1, 2, 3, plus the peer is required. So if you have staff that are not beginning teachers, but you've placed them on a comprehensive plan for the first 1 to 3 years, know that they must have that peer. Most of the staff are then on standard, especially during their renewal year. They need to have completed observations 1, 2, and 3. And then a lot of the staff will be on abbreviated in between being a beginning teacher and their renewal year. They will probably be on abbreviated. You only need to complete observation 1 and observation 2 on 2 standards, 1 and 4. The late hire plan is used after 200 days have passed. There's the rule out there on our NCEES site that you can look that up when you can start giving folks that late hire plan. It's up to you then how many observations are completed, but they must have at least 1 completed in the late hire.
We just wanted to do a quick review of the teacher evaluation process for you, since this is a huge part of your job as the teacher, as the principal with your teachers. This evaluation process guide can be found on page 21 in the manual, and we do have a link out to that so that you can look at that or send that to your teachers so that they're aware of where that is.
Okay, we had a question come in. Is it correct to place a part-time teacher on a standard plan? If so, how many evaluations?
We would need to know what you mean by part-time teacher, I would
Okay,
think.
yeah.
If you could clarify that, maybe we can answer it at the end.
And the other question, those teachers that do not have a license and are working towards getting that, do they stay on a comprehensive until receiving their license?
Yes. Yes, they would need to stay on that comprehensive until they have gotten their license and have held the license for 3 years. So,
thank you. So we have about 14 minutes.
oh, okay. I'll talk really fast because most of you are probably very aware of this process itself. But the first component is step 1 is the training and orientation, and it has 2 components. One is training, and before participating in the evaluation process, all teachers, principals, and peer evaluators must complete training on the evaluation process itself. Keep that in mind. If you're going to have a peer evaluator, they need to be trained also. We do provide webinars that provide training on this evaluation system each year, and these slide decks and recordings are available on demand if you cannot attend in real time. So just keep in mind you can always access later. Remember that you also have access to the PD system that's housed within NCEES, where you can find the online modules, courses, presentations, and resources that you can use to support that professional development. So looking at component 2 is the orientation that we were just discussing. So within the first 2 weeks, you have to have that orientation, and they have to be given the rubric, the evaluation policy, and a schedule for the evaluation process itself. And we just talked about that with you. Then we move on to step 2 in this cycle, which is and has component 3 and component 4. Component 3 is the teacher self-assessment. So they will use the rubric for evaluating North Carolina teachers, and they shall rate their own performance and reflect on this throughout the year. That self-assessment should be a personal reflection about their professional practice to help them identify their strengths and areas for improvement. This should be completed by the teacher themselves without any help. They can choose to share that or not share it, but we strongly suggest that they do share that with their principal, and that will help guide the PDP goals and the pre and post conferences. Component 4 is the pre-observation conference itself. Now, the goal of the pre-observation conference is to prepare the principal for the observation. So before that first formal observation, the principal will meet with the teacher to discuss 3 things: their self-assessment that they had just completed, their professional growth plan and their goals, and hopefully they will be going over a brief description of the lesson that they're going to be watching and observing in the classroom. So that way they are prepared. You're prepared as the principal to see what's going on in that room when you go in to visit. Now, when we talk about professional growth plans, there are 3 different kinds. They're the individual, the monitored, and the directed. The PDP is a roadmap for teacher growth. They can include individual goals, school goals, and district goals. And we encourage you to align the teacher's PDPs with your school improvement plan. This alignment is going to help you to strengthen and streamline all of your improvement conversations within your school. New teachers and teachers who are rated proficient on all standards will be placed on the individual PDP plan. In the individual PD plan, the teacher creates their own goals, and they just check in with the principal throughout the year. If a teacher has rated developing on 1 or more of the standards, then they would be placed on the monitored PDP, where the administrator and the teacher together create the goals, and you're still keeping track of that at least 3 times per year. Now, if you have a teacher who is not demonstrated or developing on 1 or more standards in that teacher summary for 2 years, they need to be placed on a directed PDP. And this is when the administrator actually sets the goals for the teacher. And you still need to be keeping a really good check on that at least 3 times per year to discuss their progress. So now let's talk.
Oh, sorry.
Okay. Now we're going to talk about component 4. The written description of the lesson to be observed. You can ask for that or not ask for that, but there's a chance. This is the chance for your teacher to showcase their teaching practices for you and to share. They should be encouraged to share the culture of their classroom, prepare the principal for any patterns or behaviors that might exist in the classroom. They can share with you how they plan their lessons and how they're ensuring student success. So encourage them to talk to you about what they're going to be seeing and what their classroom is like and why they're making the decisions that they are. And remember, this should be totally led by the teacher because they're preparing you to come in and see their lesson in their classroom. Okay, in red, you can see the observation cycle and administrative and for the administrative and the peer. In component 5 is the observation itself. When an evaluator checks the descriptors of the rubric, that is an observation while they're watching that lesson. There are 2 types of observations, formal and informal. The formal observation must last at least 45 minutes or the entire class period. I get that question a lot. And it should include a post-conference to discuss what was seen. The informal observation should last at least 20 minutes, and the post-conference is not required for those, but it can be requested by the teacher or the principal if they've seen a need. Any teacher that has less than 3 years of employment should be on the comprehensive evaluation cycle that, as Cami said, has 3 formal observations from the principal and then 1 from a peer. Teachers that have more than 3 years of employment can be placed on the standard or abbreviated cycle. With standard, usually is for career teachers who we recommend that for their license renewal year because you're looking at all 5 standards. And then the abbreviated cycle is just 2 observations, and we're looking at standard 1 and 4. Excuse me. So if you have further questions about those, you can contact me. This is just a chart that you also can see and find in resources that shows you the requirements for each evaluation cycle. Kami's pretty much shared that with you, but this is a more detailed list. Now we want to help you further understand the observations. This is a year-long process, and it's a series of formative assessments or observations. During these observations, we collect data using the rubric itself. There's a misconception that teachers are evaluated numerous times throughout the year, every time you observe them, but that is not true. You're only evaluated 1 time at the end of the school year, and that's when ratings are assigned for each standard. So remember, the observation is just a collection of data to inform the evaluation at the end of the year. So looking at step 6, the principal should conduct the post-observation conference no later than 10 school days after each formal observation. The purpose of the post-conference is to discuss the document's strengths and weaknesses on the rubric. So this is where you're actually going to talk about what did you see and what did you do well and what can we help you to grow.
We have a couple questions.
Okay.
Post-conference is not required for informal 20-minute observations
No.
on the abbreviated or standard cycle?
No. Only if the teacher wants it or if the principal sees that there's a need.
Okay. When setting the PDP, individual monitored or directed, is this the same standard for administrator?
Where's that one? Where's that one again?
I think they're saying when setting the PDP, individual monitored or directed, is this the same standard for administrators? Your principals don't have a PDP.
No.
Their goals are in their evaluation plan, so they don't get set, Jennifer, that I know of. as
No,
individual
they
monitored.
they set their own goals that are agreed upon. So this is a little different. Teachers are similar but different from the principal itself.
All right. And then do they have to complete their self-assessment to make their PDP plan visible to administrators? I can answer that. No, they need to start their PDP, and that makes it active. There is a misconception that you have to complete that first step to make it viewable, but to the staff evaluations page, but they just have to start it. You do have to meet those first 10-day requirements. So you want to stress that they go in there and complete their first steps. And is there a recorded training webinar for peer observers? That one I need to check on. I know we either have one for mentors, we might have one for peers. We have one of those, but we'll check with that. You also have regional contacts that when I send out the follow-up email, we'll send out a list of your regional contacts that can help with that question.
Yes. The regional educational facilitators usually will help with that training for the peers and the mentors also.
And I don't know, we're almost done, but I have one more comment. Somebody said pre-conference post-conferences are required to lock the observation. The pre-conference isn't required, but the post-conference is required for abbreviated observations. That was just a comment.
Okay.
Yep. All right, and then we've got about 3 minutes. So, and we will be doing it following this with a teacher webinar. If you want more details on the teacher evaluation process, join us on the next webinar at 4 o'clock.
Yes. So, coming back to the post-conference post-observation conference, just remember when I emphasized earlier, this evaluation system is about growth and improvement. So this post-observation conference is the heart of what we're working to accomplish, which is the growth of your teachers. That should focus on the evidence that is gathered during the observations itself, and the teachers should have the opportunity to reflect on the observation as it relates to the rubric itself and use the language of the rubric as you're talking.
You need to say anything more about this?
No, we can go on because I know we're gonna wind down.
Run out of time.
You guys will get the slide deck. And if you want to attend the teacher, we'll go more in detail about teachers.
Yeah, because we're going to hop over there in just a minute.
Yep.
Yeah, and this slide shows what Jennifer was referring to. Oh, sorry.
Using the language.
Using the language in the parentheses there. All right. We will not have time to go through this, but if you need help with setting plan types for staff, reach out to us and we will set a time to talk with you. But there's your guide for assigning plan types on the My Staff page, and how to assign those plan types there. They must process overnight before the staff see them so they can start them. And they must process overnight for you to then come back the next day and assign any rights to the plans. Just a quick look at the different plan types to set there, and how to check under all staff if they've started their plan. Look for the word start. It means they have not started the plan, and so it will not be viewable on staff evaluations. But if it says edit, it's now active and is viewable on staff evaluations. That's under options under all staff. And then here's just the different rights that you can set when you're coming back the next day after you've set plan types. You do need to assign the peers. Make sure your peer observers get the peer observer right. They can do the peer observation with observer rights, but they cannot sign off on it. So make sure they get the peer observer rights to do the peer observation and sign off on it. All right, and then we'll quickly wrap up because it is 4 o'clock. I want to get this link into the chat for you so you can complete feedback. And the last couple of questions are, do you want a certificate for today? If you do, put in your name and email address in those last 2 questions, and it will email you that certificate within just a few minutes. So thank you guys for attending today.